Hello horror fans, Dr. Udru here. In this video, I'll be taking a look at Elvira's 1986 MTV Halloween special in Salem. So grab your broom and get ready to rock. For the uninitiated, Cassandra Peterson, aka Elvira, is a horror movie host whose heyday was in the 1980s, eventually making a foray into films herself. In 1981, Peterson successfully auditioned to host the film program Fright Night, previously hosted by Larry Vincent, aka Sinister Seymour, Lisa Clark, aka Mona Lisa, and Robert Foster, aka Grimsley. Peterson originally based her character on that of Sharon Tate in the 1967 horror comedy The Fearless Vampire Killers, but was rejected by the show's producers. Instead, Peterson and costume designer Robert Redding mixed the look of Morticia Addams with a Valley Girl attitude, and her show is retitled Movie Macabre. Elvira would host her first MTV Halloween special in 1984 and returned 2 years later in 1986. The special begins with the jaunty theme song celebrating Elvira's trip to Salem.
It's the town you can always find a witch in. Take it from Elvira.
Salem's bitches!
Talking about Salem, Mass. Elvira's bringing to it a great piece of it.
Being from the bygone era when MTV actually played music, the special is mainly comprised of music videos, and while I can't go over every single one, I will be highlighting some of the more interesting and film-related picks. That said, first up is Bauhaus, who were 20 years late in finding out Bela Lugosi died. The video is pretty much a remix of lead singer Peter Murphy's performance in Tony Scott's 1983 vampire flick, The Hunger, which means it gets bonus points for featuring the lovely Catherine Deneuve and the late great man from outer space, David Bowie. After that, it's off to the Salem Witch Museum souvenir shop.
Pom Pom Fun Ball. That's what they used to call me in high school.
And then it's The Damned with their Vampira tribute, Plan 9, Channel 7. It's interesting to note that 50s horror host Vampira was a precursor to Elvira, though the Damned's version looks less like actor Mela Nurmi and more like Alexis Arquette in Bride of Chucky. Following Plan 9 is Oingo Boingo's theme for the 1985 John Hughes movie. The film Weird Science was based on the story Made of the Future from the anthology comic book of the same name, and Oingo Boingo leader Danny Elfman would of course go on to write scores for several films, mostly directed by Tim Burton. Stopping in briefly to see Elvira flirt with a creepy old man.
I was just wondering if you had a big treat for me.
Oh, I sure have.
I bet you do, Bill.
Sure do.
We move on to the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne, as he barks at the moon. Taking inspiration from Robert Louis Stevenson's The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the video has Ozzy drinking a tonic which transforms him into a ravenous werewolf. The video's makeup effects were created by Hollywood makeup artist Greg Cannom, and scenes of Ozzy's commitment at a psychiatric hospital were filmed at Holloway Sanatorium near London. Incidentally, Ozzy shows up later in the program to let Elvira know what he thinks of her special.
I just think it's sexist, evil, satanic rubbish.
Next we have Luis Cardenas' cover of Runaway, featuring a backup band of stop-motion dinosaurs created by animator siblings the Kyoto Brothers. The Kyotos are more famous for their work on Pee-wee's Big Adventure and would go on to write and direct Killer Clowns from Outer Space in 1988. The video also features cameos by original Runaway performer Del Shannon and Donny Osmond for some reason. Now back to Elvira with some trick-or-treat tips.
I said tips.
And speaking of Donny Osmond,
Here, little boy, you're gonna love my Donnie and Marie album.
and after a promo for Salem State College of Witchcraft and Voodoo,
Our veterans-approved course of study includes such classes as potions, black magic, white magic, voodoo dolls, and of course, hex education.
we're on the streets of Salem, where Elvira does some myth-busting regarding a well-known superstition.
Do you believe in superstitions? You know superstitions? Do you believe in them?
Never.
All right, see? Guess we did.
Getting back to the playlist, we have the first of 3 Psycho-related videos with Norman Bates by Landscape, a fun black and white homage to Hitchcock's 1960 masterpiece.
My name is Norman Bates. I'm just a normal guy.
Later in the special, we're treated to the Hitman's Bates Motel, which also weirdly references the lady in the radiator from David Lynch's Eraserhead. Later still is The Scream of Love by Carter Burwell from Psycho 3, featuring the homicidal mama's boy himself, Anthony Perkins. Burwell would go on to score several films, mostly for the Coen brothers. Meanwhile, Elvira's been advertising her album of Halloween carols, which I personally think is a great idea.
Dracula is coming to town. I saw mommy kissing Frankenstein. Every wolfman was a very hairy man.
Another great idea is the Elvira Doll.
It's the Elvira Doll, so much prettier than Barbie.
And for her second trick-or-treat tip, Elvira gives some costume advice.
If you're going as the ghost, don't wear a floral print sheet.
Her cooking tips, however, aren't so hot.
Oh, hi, I'm a little weenie.
Up next is the Ramones with a dose of psychotherapy, sporting some head-bursting special effects by Hollywood effects man Mark Shostrom. After that, David Bowie returns with Underground, straight from the 1986 fantasy film Labyrinth, and featuring many of its Jim Henson created creatures. The video also features scratch film animation, similar to the hand-drawn rotoscope animation seen in director Steve Barron's video for Take On Me. Barron would go on to direct other Jim Henson projects, such as 3 episodes of The Storyteller and the 1990 film version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. In the meantime, Elvira's been playing the $25,000 Pentagram, a parody of the game show The $25,000 Pyramid. But unfortunately, the Mistress of the Dark doesn't know as much movie trivia as she thought. And now for a real head-turner, it's exercising with Elvira.
Begin.
In her last trek out in Salem, Elvira proves it's hard out here for a witch.
I have to have a permit for it. Just stand there being myself. It's Halloween. I'm dressed up. This is a costume.
Sorry.
And the final trick-or-treat tip of the evening is good treat, bad treat.
Some good treats might be a Walkman. Bad treats would be raw fish.
Prior to this segment was the video for My Mistake by Phantom Rocker and Slick, featuring Cassandra Peterson herself. Coming into the home stretch, we have The Time Warp, ripped straight from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and a personal favorite, Alice Cooper's The Man Behind the Mask, from Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. And as an unexpected surprise, Godzilla stomps into the playlist with the unused love theme from his 1984 cinematic return, I Was Afraid to Love You by Jill Elliott.
I was afraid to love you, but now I want more of you.
Then, Lou Reed does his best impression of the face-ripping scene from Poltergeist with his video for No Money Down. This video was directed by the musical duo Godley and Cream, the pair responsible for the equally terrifying Rocket by Herbie Hancock. Even the B-52's Fred Schneider drops in on the party with his video for Monster, directed by future Pet Sematary director Mary Lambert.
There's a monster in my pants and it does a nasty dance.
Alright, I think we've seen enough. This video was brought to you by the following patrons on Patreon and was requested by the team at the Salem Horror Festival. On October 4th, Cassandra Peterson will be hosting a 30th anniversary screening of Elvira Mistress of the Dark, so be sure to check it out. And don't forget to subscribe and check out my other videos.